This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, I'll call the meeting to order for the Easthampton Council on Aging for October 21st, 2025. We'll begin with a roll call. Pat Ruff.
Here.
Leslie.
Here.
Kathy. Carrie.
Here.
Crystal.
Here.
Marie. Excused, I believe you said.
Yes.
Deborah Peavy. Kathy Schweitzer. Excused. Cindy Terrell here. Tom Brown here, and Louise Jacob here, absent. Okay, we do have a quorum. 1, 2. Are you a member? You're not, though.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4. We have a quorum with 5. Minutes. You should have all received a copy of the minutes from Leslie. Thank you very much again. Are there any questions, additions, deletions to the minutes?
Make a motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you.
I'll second.
Kathy, thank you. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Thank you very much. Director's report. Cindy, you have 15 minutes. I'm timing you.
Okay, could you tell me what I said on the agenda I was going to talk about besides?
Service and program status update and transportation update if available.
Okay, the transportation update is that the new large vehicle lease from PVTA that we applied for several years ago is supposedly at PVTA's garage and being inspected and on its way to us. And some people in the community have asked, now that you're getting a vehicle that can hold 10 regular seats and 2 jump seats, or 10 regular seats plus a wheelchair, will that change how you do business in terms of rides and trips? We've discussed it a lot as a staff, and we're not ready with a report on that. But I can tell you that we can have, if it's of interest, either the program manager or the activity coordinator come in and talk with the board some more about how do we decide how many people can go on a trip. What are the capacity and function issues besides how big is the van, depending on what the trip is. And then in terms of other kinds of rides, like group trips to go grocery shopping or a big box store or something like that, how will that impact it? So this will be the first time that we've had, so we'll have 2 relatively new, 1 relatively new and 1 brand new leased van from PVTA. The relatively new Ford Transit, slightly smaller vehicle that's also an ADA van that we own through that earmark and a contribution from the city. And then we still have the van purchased under the CARES Act, which is a smaller Ford Transit minivan, not an ADA vehicle, which is frequently used by the drivers if they're just driving one person somewhere, or by the staff to make deliveries or do the meals, something like that, visit people at home. So this will be the first time that we actually have that size fleet. You may have heard mayoral candidates or others discussing the COA transportation program. There's no plan to increase the hours the drivers work at present. There are no drivers who want an increase of hours. We don't have proof that we could fill an increase in hours with more individual rides. PVTA, I'm not sure how, I don't have access to their statistics of how many people are riding their senior van and then getting around on the public bus. Then there's the MART transportation that people with Mass Health and a prescription from their doctor can use for medical rides, Easthampton Neighbors volunteer rides, and our volunteer rides. So right now, I would say, sit tight, we'll be coming and making more of a report. And so I would say calendar year 2026, hopefully we get that ban by January, would be the first year to show what is the impact of having that vehicle. It's about the same size as Viper One, which we had in the past. I do think I'm going to write up some kind of efficiency, sustainability standard for how we decide what vehicles get used. The city has this like eco vehicle standard. And when we lease vehicles from PVTA, obviously we're not hearing to the highest level of that, because the highest level of that is to get an electric vehicle. Then there's like a next level down, next level down, and a next level down. We're at the bottom with these big vans because there are no electric ADA 10 to even 8 passenger vehicles that the state has on its procurement list. So that was brought to my attention that, we are bringing that vehicle into the fold, and it's not an eco vehicle. But to us, there is no other option to be able to serve people as a larger group.
So just one question came to mind when you were saying that. Is our current policy on how many people go on certain trips governed by the size of the van, or governed by some other factor?
Some trips it's governed by the size of the van. So I would say a trip to Walmart, Aldi, that kind of thing, we would be fine to do those trips with one driver and no chaperone in whatever size van. But we need to leave room for a chaperone on certain other trips. And so that subtracts from how many people can go on a trip. And then certain other trips, but I'd rather have the program staff come and explain this. Capacity is less than the largest van possibly if you're going on a hike and you really need a smaller staff to people ratio. So
where I was going with that too is wherever policy, in my opinion, wherever a policy was established based on the size of the van, if we have a bigger van, then I think we have to relook at that policy.
right, yeah, there's no policy. There's just the sense that, internal to COA, there's just the sense that you should use the most efficient vehicle for the job as much as possible. But I'd like to write that up because, there's 4 different drivers and different dispatchers, and I think we should try to codify that. Now, sometimes you're out and about all the way in Florence, and it just so happens that you've got one person coming home from Northampton. It's just the way it is, and you might be in the biggest vehicle because earlier you had a wheelchair and you had this and you had that. So it's not perfect, but we can work on
And
it.
to clarify, it doesn't need to be a policy. It could be best practice.
Best practice, yes.
So then it's flexible.
Right, but I would like to be able to respond in case city officials, staff are coming to us and saying, hey, what's happening? Why do you have 4 non-electric vehicles? What does that look like? And I think it would be helpful also maybe for people to see what the procurement book looks like from Mass DOT so they can see what the choices were.
Aren't the only electric vehicles in the police department today? It's not like we have a massive fleet of electric vehicles. And if there's 2 in the police department, that's it.
There's, I don't know if the fire department, I think DPW has one, but not like, it's like a regular car. I don't think it's.
Yeah.
So the policy is in effect for each new vehicle, even leased, that you acquire. And so now, could we ever get to the point where the city says that takes precedence over the actual services you provide? So COA, you can't have one of those vehicles because they're not environmentally sound according to our policy. So make do without those vehicles, have smaller vehicles that are either a hybrid or electric or, that would change the services we provide, but nobody has come to us yet with that. So okay, so that's the transportation piece. Any other questions? And somebody keep us on time because,
5 minutes.
what I wanted to say about statistics, two things.
6 things.
So this will be the first year that so we have a software system that we try to collect as many of our statistics as possible in, that is partly funded and developed with state involvement. And so this will be the first year where I've worked to try to, they at the state level are mapping all of our categories to what we do, so it makes sense when the state spits out statewide report. Okay. I went into our own data collection and tried to make it make sense with what the state says and what we need locally, and just how can we report to people like our Shine, organization, LifePath, and others. So I've done that work, and now I've submitted our annual report for FY25, and I have the narrative part is ready, and now the software company will automatically for us extract our statistics. That's not ready on their end yet. As soon as it is, I'll put together the narrative and the statistics they extracted and share it with the city on our webpage, and that'll be our report for FY25. But deeper than that, as I've done a little bit in the past, I'm looking at our statistics over the past several years in a more detailed way, and then I want to report them out to the public in ways that are interesting and tell a story. And so what I've done so far is gone in and printed out a book of, I think, interesting statistics, and I'm just going to go over a few of them with you today. And I don't know if you remember how in the past I did like a summary which said, here's how many people joined COA before, during, and after the pandemic. That one I actually can't repeat, because after we gave that to you, we uploaded the whole street census of people 55 plus to the database. Now everybody is a member. I mean, their birth date and address are in there, but there's many people without their phone number or details. So when they come in as a new member, we flush out that contact card. So because the contact card's already in there, and my senior center didn't have a way to say, these people aren't really members yet at the time. So that statistic I can't give you, but I can show you who's active, what kinds of services are they using, and are we delivering? What does it look like with volunteering, trips, rides, and so on? So the first question I have for you is, given the statistics you've heard from me over the years, do you have any guidance on what you think would tell the story to you, the board? And then maybe we could break that down and make even a monthly report to city council. Like there's a couple towns I know of that do that. Westfield used to do it. I don't know if they still do. They give the city council like more than what the previous directors here gave you. They gave you like a sheet that was meaningless, because who cares if 30 people did this and 50 people did this? Against what? Against what trend? What did it mean to them? How did it serve them? I think we need more qualitative data to go along with the numbers and an interpretation. But what I want to know first is, what would help you in terms of our strategic planning or new building project, or just in your monthly service? If anybody has anything they can tell me now, you could suggest it later.
I don't know specifically right off the top of my head, Cindy, but I think any data that's going to build the case for how active the senior center is and why it needs more space, not just why it needs a new senior center, but why it needs more space, which A plus B equals C, obviously. But I think reports to the city council on an ongoing basis are a great thing. Keeps them informed, because remember, the first hurdle in potentially getting a debt exclusion question to the voters is it has to be approved by the city council. and I believe by 2/3 of the city council has to approve the question even going on the ballot. And I've been on a committee where it took us more than one try to get that through. So, keeping them updated, now monthly may be too often because how much do the numbers change every month?
Right.
At least quarterly, maybe every other month, whatever you think. But I think getting on their agenda and it just says senior center update, and it's every other month, I think it's going to be information to them and the public that's watching the meeting.
Do you keep track of how many wait lists you have? Like if you have a trip, you know, like are there 10 people on this wait list? Or are there, 3 people on it? Do you keep track of that? I didn't know if that would be helpful statistics.
So the software system lets us right now keep track of, so archived with an old trip, say to go mini golfing, is the wait list. I don't know how easy it is to create a report on how many people were on each trip wait list.
I just
But that is there, Kathy, and that's a very good question. And then in terms of that regular activities, which are in another module,
Right.
no, it doesn't allow us. Well, I'm not sure if my senior center currently allows us to keep a wait list in there for those activities. And then in terms of rides, we've wrestled with this back and forth. When you get to a certain level of documentation, it gets hard. So with rides, we have every single ride request for the van or for a volunteer ride is recorded outside my senior center in Excel spreadsheets because all of our requesting goes through a Google form at this point. So there's a spreadsheet at the back of that. And it is coded who got a ride and who didn't.
so you can keep
But
track of
as for creating a report, that would be very labor intensive, maybe requiring somebody who speaks Excel better than I do. It's possible. Certain things are like color coded, like we took care of this batch, but does it mean it's color coded that that batch had 10 people in it that didn't get a ride? And also the dispensation of like, where did that person go? Sometimes we know, sometimes we don't. Did they get a ride with PBTA? Did they get no ride? Did the family end up taking them? We don't have that data. So I would be, in terms of transportation, I would be hesitant to present to the community in such terms as these people didn't get a ride. Because usually they either change their appointment so they can get a ride from us, they get a ride from another source, or maybe they didn't go for some other reason. So, but we could talk about what we did do and didn't do. In terms of the use of the space and is the space big enough? That's tricky in part because some of the activities we wouldn't want to be in bigger because the instructors are telling us this can't be bigger for me to help this person have the proper form to lift that free weight.
Right.
Whereas say Tai Chi, Lenny doesn't care how many people come. I think he could do it in the park to like 100 people, but the 100 people wouldn't like it. They'd much rather it be like 25 people. So some of these things we could qualify.
Right.
While it's, and I think it's great showing that information to the board and the city council. We just don't want to give the impression that this may come out wrong, but that things are so great at the senior center and we're serving all the needs. Why do you need a new building?
Right. Well, I can tell you and the public, just because you can cram 22 people into a Tai Chi class in basically what is a hallway,
Right,
with the risk that somebody could back up and fall down the stairs, or somebody could bump into them on their way to the fitness room, or there's no ADA bathroom anywhere near them.
right.
The thing with the current senior center is there are so many issues that make it a poor site and a poor design. And also the proof would be in the pudding for a new senior center. So if we had distinct rooms for each function, right? We already know from the experience of other centers, it would be better.
Right.
But if we put in 125 or 50 person parking lot and put in a dining room to seat 125 people, Would people come to those meals in Easthampton or big activities? That's where I say the proof is in the pudding. We don't know. What we do know is that we're very successful at bringing people in for their specific activity. And there's a handful of people who come in and hang out and do a puzzle or read the paper or whatever. Maybe that would increase if you also had a cafe and better lounge furniture, or the lounge was bigger. So you just don't know until you do it. You're going on best practice. You're going on the experience of other towns. You're going on what the populace says it wants. So yeah, I think it's a qualitative conversation. It's a story that has to be told. So it's not going to come through just in statistics. But statistics are helpful.
And last thing, not really statistics, but are there programs that you wish you could offer, but you can't because of building?
Right. And, to some extent, you get very creative when you can't. So with the park's help, we're using the park to do a lot of interesting things that we could do in Longmeadow if we had their site, because we could do them right there.
Right.
They have pickleball courts, that they probably have a bocce court, they have a patio.
So I'm going to kind of tag on to what Tom was trying to say. I think the bigger thing, and staff may be resistant to this, just put it out there, but it's to start capturing info about the things that people are asking about that you do not provide. Even if you find a creative solution.
Yes.
Because that indicates demand. It's great that you can find a creative solution, but the real thing is what you hit it. What do people want? And what are the users of the facility telling you?
And we are starting to record that through, for example, the SWOT sessions that we did. And then I started a new spreadsheet tab with those strategies of what are all the things that people, staff and providers out in the community and through Mass Council on Aging asking us to do. And really, because we constantly investigate those and say to ourselves, can we do this or not, and why? But listing them all, tagging which strategy do they go with, which area of best practice of a senior center do they go with, and trying to find the holes. What aren't we doing? So I'll just give you an example, and then I think we've gone over 5 minutes. By the way, the statistics that I printed out, I will make those, I'll put them together a little bit better and send them out to you, and then we could look at them, either look at them next time, or you can look at them on your own and ask questions. This is 54 pages. So we were asked by somebody who's a speech and language pathologist who wants to do memory cafes based on communication strategies for people with diagnosis. Then we've got MGH, Harvard. We may participate in a pilot for people who don't have a diagnosis about preventing cognitive decline, and being part of a pilot research project on that. And so when we look at some of these great things that we know are holes in what we do, and we know our facility isn't the right place to do them, creative solution, the library has an annex, we're partnering with the library, we may offer some stuff in that space. It depends, but it also means the library really has to be a partner, because a staff person has to physically be there. So it's things like that we can elucidate for the public and say, this is the kind of thing that this makes sense at the library because there's a bathroom that's easily accessible on the same floor. There's parking. Here's why this would work there. Here's why it doesn't work at the senior center. We don't want to give up on doing it entirely forever. We've resisted doing some of these things because we know our space isn't good for it, and the providers are saying our space isn't good for it. But here comes the library with a possible partnership in this new space. We're going to try it. They have no sound remediation in there except a carpet. So it could be that breaking down into two groups, care partners and people with a dementia diagnosis, it might be too noisy in there. We're going to test it out and see. So yes, there's definitely a lot more codifying to do. Yep.
Okay, great.
All
Thank
right.
you. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Old business, building project update, Tom and Leslie. We did have the first meeting on September 29th, and that was a bit of an organizational meeting. We elected a chair, Dan Rist, a vice chair, Tom Brown, and a secretary. Thank you very much, Leslie Button. Also, Cindy was great in laying out some of the groundwork, if you will, the foundation of the building committee, what some of the duties and responsibilities would be. But we also encouraged them to go back and look at the ad hoc committee report because while you might think the building block of a building committee is to start with the foundation's done, if you will, with the ad hoc building committee report. So we're really, if it's steps 1 through 10, God, I think we're already at step number 6 maybe because of that report. So we're not starting from scratch with, gee, where might we put this, or how might this work, or what are the needs, or what would the layout of the building look like? A lot of that work's been done. So it was important to sort of reiterate that, especially to the new folks around the table who hadn't been involved in ad hoc building committee or are new to anything to do with the senior center. I think that's everything that comes to mind. Leslie did like 3 pages of minutes, which is fantastic. Thank you so much. Oh, and Jody from Ludlow did attend our meeting virtually to sort of give us an overview of what Ludlow went through in the process of their senior center. And just one interesting observation on my part, when we visited new senior centers in the area, there weren't too many towns that didn't have one new. So we are a little bit behind the ball on this one. So just another reason why I think we need a new senior center.
Towns of this size. Sorry, Chair, I interrupted.
No, that's fine. You can interrupt me anytime you need to. Anything else from that meeting? Leslie, Cindy?
It was largely housekeeping.
I can report out what's on the next agenda. So the meeting, and everybody's invited, Monday, the 27th from 5 to 6 p.m. On the next agenda is, should the meetings be a little longer, maybe a quarter of an hour or something longer? Should there be public speak, and how long should it be? We're hoping to get a city staff, possibly starting with Allison Manuel, the planning department head, to come and talk about citing a senior center and issues associated with that, and talking first though about ad hoc conclusions the ad hoc building committee came to, and speaking them out loud is what the chair would like to do. And I just want to remind people that the newer folks who are not board members and were not on the ad hoc committee have not actually voted themselves for new construction, and may be coming with ideas about using like rebuilding, reuse, or remodel, or no new center at all. We just don't know, but that often comes up on building committees. And so the board has voted that there should be new construction. The ad hoc committee, that was their conclusion. So we are starting from scratch in one sense, which is that there will be discussions and people will bring up ideas. Like one of the people brought up, what about the is it the American Legion down near the Keystone building that's for rent, and asked, well, why couldn't we buy that and fix that up? Somebody else has, some people are still talking about other buildings. So there is that.
I don't disagree with you, and maybe that's something we should actually cover at a meeting. I'm not sure if that's what you were saying or not, but I would hope if you requested to serve on a senior center building committee, that you're in favor of building a senior center. Now you're right, someone could have in their mind, why can't we rehab? My only answer to that I reported to the city council back when they were trying to shoehorn us into one of the schools was, we've been in too many buildings that have been rehabbed as opposed to being built for a senior center. It's the same logic we used in building the 2 new schools. Why couldn't you just rehab the schools? Because you can't move concrete walls, and classrooms aren't designed classrooms that were designed in 1965 don't work in 2025. So I've only been on this board since 1986. Were you born yet then, Cindy? You don't have to tell me that. But
I'm a 66er.
Yeah, just to follow on that, I mean, a study was done in 2022 that basically says the same thing. Like, this isn't, you know, I'm not gonna be careful. I'm firmly opposed to us going into another building. And I've made that point very clear. And I think because financially, it just doesn't make it, among other things.
Yeah.
Financially,
It
it
doesn't
just
make
does
sense.
not make any sense.
we,
And unless somebody is gonna drop $20 million to the city of Easthampton Council on Aging to build a new building or to rehab an old building, it doesn't make any sense.
Right. Extensive studies were done on White Brook Middle School on rehab versus new construction. And I don't think anybody was trying to pull a wool over our eyes. Rehab was more expensive. Bringing an old building up to code was more expensive.
Yeah.
Is that Crystal?
Yeah.
I think so. Go ahead, Crystal.
I agree 100%. It actually was one of the things that was my major takeaway from attending the forums was that only 2 out of the 3 candidates had actually seemed to have read the ad hoc building committee report based on the recommendations of rehabbing one of the old schools. And it was kind of shameful, in my opinion, to see that the lots that have been suggested for rehab aren't not even large enough for a parking lot for a new senior center. So I'm just surprised that people wouldn't take the time to read the ad hoc report and then maybe even look at what lot size would be needed to support a growing community like Easthampton.
And I'll go out on a limb. I think Pat was heading out on too. And this is not intended to show any support for one candidate over another, but with 3 candidates, I don't have to name them. With 3 candidates, there are actually 3 different positions on a new senior center. And one is simply build a new senior center that I'm aware of. One is rehab an old school. And one is build a new senior center, but with intergenerational activities and possibilities like basketball courts for kids after school, things like that. So 3 totally separate, different positions on what could happen with the senior center under a new mayor.
Time will tell.
Time will tell. November 4th.
November 4th, we'll have a.
Okay, next was senior tax work-off lottery if ready.
Okay, so the senior tax work-off cap for this year is 18 households, down from 20. The number of people who applied and were income eligible was 19. One person has dropped out. And it's just going to volunteer, be a straight volunteer. So that leaves 18 people and 18 slots. We do have a little bit of a problem, which is that I'm having trouble matching people to some of the available jobs. Some of the jobs I feel are not, they sound like good jobs and people have done them in the past, but nobody wants to do them now. Is it because this batch of 18 people doesn't want to stand outside as a crossing guard in the winter? Is it because they don't have the physical ability to be, be a park laborer? So see, these are some of the jobs that are not being applied for. So then I have fewer positions that I can match to those people. So while we don't need to do a lottery, I am still having difficulty making the perfect match for everyone, but that's employment, so not all of those 18 people may end up with a job because some of them are going to say no to what I can offer them. So what I do, this is the way it works. I take the people who are entitled to come back for their second year. And if their supervisor wants them back, they get that job back. If they want to change their job, I try to place them. Then the new people, and there were 6 totally new people, they're the next priority. I figure out where they could go. If I think of a job for them, but the would-be supervisor really wants back the person they already trained, who's done it for years, and that person is eligible because there's no lottery, so they've come off the wait list, they'll get the job, you know? And so it's like a jigsaw puzzle. I'm trying to make it good for everyone. What will a department do if they don't get somebody they were hoping to get? Either they'll have the money to pay them or they won't, but there is a hiring freeze. So there's that. And we don't know when that will be lifted. So that's how it stands right now.
Do you know why it was dropped by two positions? Which one?
Yes. The goal was to try to save a little bit of money in the overlay account. And I can't speak to this very well. I think the finance team or the mayor, you know, could speak to it better. But there may be an increased burden from the HEROES Act, where I think veterans can get up to 100% exemption on their property taxes, and you don't know until you know how much that impact will have on the overlay account. And something about this, again, don't quote me, this being the first full tax year of that program being implemented in the way that it is in Easthampton. There's a local option, I think, on it for communities to have. Again, please correct me if I'm wrong. We'll put it in the minutes. So let's just say that senior tax work-off costs the town $40,000 at 20 people. Now it's 2,000. So 2,000, 20 households versus $2,000 each, 18 households. It's a small amount, but it's like that's what the mayor decided, interim mayor decided. So there was some talk about it going down to 10 or 15 slots. So 18 is great. And it just so happens that every year we get between 16 to 22 applications. It's not like we're burgeoning with applications of people that are eligible yet.
Where can I see the list? Like, where is it somewhere posted that we can see like what the jobs are that they're like applying for, if you will?
So the roster of jobs changes every year,
Okay.
And the refined one lives on a spreadsheet. And it's not super clear because some of it's the jigsaw puzzle of this one, because this one has these skills and limitations.
Yeah.
This year, they're going to do a quarter companion driver and 3/4 nutrition assistant. But next year, it might be nutrition assistant is like a full job and companion driving is a full job. It's kind of a little piece together, but yes, there's a Google form. Well, it's been taken down now because the application period's over. I took it off but there is, it was made public. And so I'll put it on our website.
Yeah, I'm just curious.
Yeah.
I just am curious what the
Now.
I know what the plan is, but I'm just curious what the jobs are.
Yeah, what I could do is, I can make a senior tax work-off section of our page.
Okay.
And I can put up, these are the calendar year 26 jobs.
Yeah.
And then each year we could update that, because it does vary a little bit from year to year. Like crossing guard has been gone for some years and now it's back because of the new construction they did.
The only reason I asked about the reduction, Cindy's, I thought, I heard, and again, anybody can say anything in a political campaign, but I thought that in one of the forums, I heard someone say they wanted to expand the program,
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Can they expand the amount, the dollar amount?
So
the number of people
in
who could
the
participate.
in the forum at Easthampton High School, interim mayor Derby said that the amount per person had been increased. That's the local option to go to the state limit of 2,000. And I heard him say that the number of senior tax work-off slots would be increased. I don't know which year that is an idea for.
And again,
Yeah.
a candidate could say that's something I'm going to work
Right.
towards.
Right.
Might not happen in year one, but it's
Yeah,
something they could work towards.
Yes.
Uniqueness of this election too is the new mayor takes effect the day after the election, not waiting until January.
Right.
Any other questions about senior tax work-off?
Lunch forum topic.
Okay, the lunch forum topic, we had a subcommittee of Kathy Carey, Kathy Schweitzer, and me, I think, us three, to look at the idea that Deborah Peavy from Pioneer Valley Memory Care Collaborative or Initiative came up with for a forum that would be for anybody interested in dealing with dementia, like an educational forum with a lunch. And she then, after that meeting, sent me an agenda for the forum and how it would go, and how it would also have a respite piece so the care partners of people who are dealing with dementia could come to the forum, and then somewhere, either at the venue where we hold it or next door or something, there would be a respite space with trained people to provide activities for those folks while they're care partners in the forum. So that was one idea. And then we also looked at the idea, and Kathy, I could give this to you to, chime in. Another idea was that Rachel Senecal from the Northwest DA's office had offered at any time, if you want us to do our scam and fraud type for like lunch talk, lunch and learn, we can do that. And then I want to say we may have had a third idea. So Deborah hasn't gotten, we were leaning towards, as I understand it, Kathy, the lunch and learn about dealing with dementia. We thought it might dovetail with other programs that we might be bringing on board, and that because they had an agenda ready to go, a format ready to go, plug and play, right? We just have to work on the venue, that was our top choice. But she hasn't gotten back to me. So she may be away, or, I'm not sure. And we said April, I want to say maybe April 8th was our ideal. We wanted it to be when the weather's good, it's not dark early, this and that and the other thing. So we have that budgeted out, so it will. And then the way the board could get involved is, we would, if that's the final forum, we would figure out roles so that the board could really be engaged in either logistics or day of helping to put it on, that kind of thing.
One thought came to mind there again, when you said find the venue, the senior center, that could be the venue, which brings in a whole new audience to experience the senior center who potentially become members.
Yeah, this definitely will not be at the senior center, because we're talking about, say, lunch between the attendees, volunteers and staff, presenters, and then the staff and the people who are in the activities in the sort of respite section. A total of 80 people for lunch is what's budgeted, and the center is too small.
Yeah.
So possibilities would be the Congo Church, but I need to look at their small room and see if it's big enough for that respite activity to go on while in the main big hall the talk is going on. If we could bring in Easthampton Media as a partner to film it, maybe they would facilitate us using Eastworks again if the owner manager of Eastworks is willing. But no other ideas yet for where to hold it.
Check out the halls sometime if you have a chance at Our Lady of the Valley on Adams Street.
Okay.
Huge hall.
In the basement there?
Yes, below
Yeah.
the church. There's a kitchen there.
Okay.
There's a small room, but it might be too small for what you're talking about, but you could look at it.
Yeah.
I know other organizations outside of church stuff have used it. Health New England sits up there during the enrollment period to sign people up or do whatever. So it just has to be scheduled, obviously, because of other folks using it.
I think the main concern of the small group in talking about this is, what would people be most likely to want to come to? And we thought they might be less likely to want to come to the scam and fraud one than one that's, got providers talking about, dementia, and really not just for care partners, but organizations that want to help, city officials that want to be involved. It's kind of like, I think it's basically when they're becoming an age and dementia friendly community officially, this would be like the kickoff type of forum. Do you think so, Crystal?
Yeah, I had talked at the last board meeting, Deborah and I talked after the board meeting, and we also emailed about the respite piece for caregivers. And I had said that I would be happy to have, see if I could get like some paid staff from Christopher Heights to volunteer to be at, the respite portion, to be able to see. But I think, like, I just know from my daughter's a nurse, and she works some private duty jobs locally in Easthampton, and there's quite a few caregivers that don't utilize the senior center because they don't think of it as being an option because of they're providing care for, their loved one, and they don't really have anywhere for their loved one to go. And that kind of it also kind of built my thought process about like the new senior center possibly having like a profit center rental that could be utilized as like either a respite for people who are utilizing the senior center, or even like some sort of community health thing, because a lot of local senior centers need to have some sort of profit center that brings in a revenue to support their budget. So I kind of thought Deborah's idea was, a great way to start off the dementia friendly Easthampton, as well as opening people's eyes to senior center programming that they can participate in while being a caregiver themselves.
Yeah. Hi, Deborah. We're actually talking about the forum idea and agenda you presented, and thank you for joining us. So we were just to sum up. I know we're almost at time. Do we have a lot more on the agenda?
Public speak, that's it.
Oh, okay. So it sounds like the board is simpatico with this idea for the forum to focus on this agenda that Deborah presented. And if so, since we did bring this to the board as a board selected topic, I don't know if we need to vote on it or if it's just a consensus, and then we would work out, whether the selected date or thereabouts works and a venue, et cetera.
I personally don't think we need to vote on it. I think it's programming. You're just informing us.
Well, we really wanted to have board engagement around doing a lunch and learn forum a year, kind of the board discussed after the success of that housing forum. And, and believe me, I'll be coming back to the board for volunteers to help pull it off. Because it gets you out with the public, with the people who use the senior center, with the people who would want to use the senior center. And I think it's good for the board to be present at these kinds of things, as well as our regular volunteers. So.
Okay. Nothing wrong with finishing.
Yeah.
Public speak, is there anyone out there?
Nope,
No one?
nobody online.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.